Hello. I'm here with another post, this time to talk about Resource Analyzer. Resource Analyzer is a feature that we've had for a decent amount of time, but I have not talked about it recently, and I've always liked it. I've always thought it was kind of cool to be able to track data about your WebFOCUS usage, my WebFOCUS usage. Um, and recently I've been working on some kind of usage tracking metrics and taking a look at some of that. So I felt like why not revisit Resource Analyzer? And this might be something that either you haven't used in a while or um, were familiar with but weren't sure how to use it, or even had never heard of it before because we kind of got it stashed away here in the server administration area. But it's pretty easy to set up. You just let it run and it tracks your usage, and then you can take a look at those reports later, which is what I'm going to do here. So first I'll start with like the setup steps. Um, I've got this already set up on my machine. I'm going to set it up in one of our sandboxes, like test environments. And I'm going to show you the stuff that I've already got configured so you can see what some of the reports look like. Um, so to kind of summarize, like what is Resource Analyzer? The short answer is it's basically a set of reports that allows you to monitor the resource usage in WebFOCUS. So that includes all the requests that go through WebFOCUS, the different data sources that are used, the different users using those data sources. That's kind of the gist of it at a high level, but you know, it gets very detailed. You can drill down in these reports to see kind of like even different columns that are being used by those data sources, which ones have joins, how many rows they're returning, and a lot of like nitty-gritty stuff like that. So depending on your level of kind of technical expertise in how hands-on you want to be with the server, it could be a very useful tool to help you make decisions about how you set up your database, or it might just be interesting to like take a look at resource usage and see like when is my data being used by whom and stuff like that. It's still interesting even if you don't plan to re-index or you know, really administer or govern those different areas. So I think it's a very nice and interesting feature either way. So I'll stop talking. I will show you guys how to configure it to start. So I'm going to go here into our test environment where I don't have it set up yet. And you'll see it's pretty easy to set up. Just click configure. I've got two options here. I'm making this video about Resource Analyzer, so I'm going to click that one. As far as Resource Governor goes, just like a summary of that, Resource Governor, basically once you have reviewed your reports in Resource Analyzer, you can use that to make decisions applied through Resource Governor. So you can like limit the size of requests that are passing through the server and like limit when requests are made, that kind of thing. So for now, I'm just going to enable Resource Analyzer, go to the next step. And this is basically where you do all the configuration, just this page here. So the first option, you will probably not change this. This is the server that you want to report against in Resource Analyzer. So this is the same reporting server that I'm on right now. So I'm going to use that one. And then the next set of options is like how we store the data from Resource Analyzer. So it is encouraged to use a relational database just because those are more efficient with large amounts of data. But you could use Focus, that will save it, I believe, in your application directory. So it might not be ideal because Resource Analyzer is going to be collecting a lot of data. So I would encourage you to use the relational option if you have that available. And if you do, then you can select which adapter you want from this list. So in this case, in this environment, they've got SQL Server set up. So I'm going to use that. The create repository option, and because I already set this up and then refreshed the configuration, we will see which one I should select. But if you're doing this for the first time, you'll want to select yes. If you've already got a Resource Analyzer repository, so you have all the tables already, then you'll want to click no. or DDL only. I think that's if you imported the tables, they don't have data. Don't quote me on that though. We do have very nice documentation that you can check out about what that means. And then your owner and schema, that's like the schema where it will be added to. In my personal case, on my setup, I'm using MariaDB, and they call it a database because that's what MySQL called it. It's the same basic idea. So DBO is like the default that SQL Server uses, so I'm just going to use that. And then this configuration settings area covers the different options in terms of like what data you want to collect. So in this case, data request monitoring. It's going to track all requests. So I'm going to turn that on. I think we recommend in our documentation to turn it on, and then you can like disable monitoring for specific data sources. If I didn't have it on, then I would need to enable each individual one. I could say like, oh, only do like IBI-SAMP, only do base app. But in this case, I'm going to do everything because I want to know about all my data that's used, not just specific sources. But if you already know which sources you want to track, you might turn that off and then enable individually. And same with execute and exclude. This is like items that are referenced by the initial request. So I've got that turned on. That means though that if you look at the procedures that are tracked, then it will include all the included stuff that includes themes. So you'll see all the theme syntax in there too. Your like style sheet theme .sty files. So if you don't want to track those, you can leave that out, but sometimes it's useful to know about that code too. Next up, we've got system procedure monitoring. I'll turn that. I think I have that on in my configuration. That will do like internal system procedures. You'll probably see those in some of the reports. It's stuff that's not procedures stored in my repository. It's stuff that like comes with WebFOCUS, like that's run by the different agents and stuff when you run a request. So you can turn that on or off. Here we've got bulk load or table load. This is like standard option for a relational database. Bulk load is much faster. So it's usually recommended, I think, whenever you're using a relational database. Yeah, I think if you're using Focus, you wouldn't have this option. And then show all applications. I believe I have this on. If I turn it off, so yes, it's gonna like include data sources from all my application folders in the reporting server. If I had it off, if I set it to no, then it's just gonna do stuff in my app path. For me personally, I don't really care whether stuff's in my app path or not, so I have this turned on. And then once I configure it, it'll create the tables. We'll see if it tells me that I should not have created the repository. No, I had no problem with that. So, but there's no data yet. Oops, that's not what I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at reports. I have no data yet. So if I run this, I should get nothing. Yeah, there's nothing there. But if I go and I run a procedure, so I'm running this nice pie chart. It's like a sample file that we have in the install. Now that I've run something, it's within the date range. Now I've got just that one like graph that I ran. So it'll keep collecting data over time. So that's the configuration stage. I want to get to the actual content because that's the part that you're going to be looking at the most. So I'm going to go to my environment. You can tell it's different because I've got some white labeling on it. So I'm just going to go through some of the reports that we have. We got a few different sections here. Most of the stuff you're going to look at is in this report section. This top part here, as I mentioned before, you don't have to turn Resource Analyzer on for all applications at first. So you can turn it on individually by right-clicking here and clicking Start Monitoring. So that's how you do that. That's pretty much what this is used for here. There's no reports in there. Our reports are in this reports section, as you would expect. And so we got like some general reports up at the top and then some specific Resource Analyzer ones at the bottom. So these general ones provide kind of general high-level aggregated metrics that are actually surprisingly detailed that don't cover specific requests. They're kind of like over the whole system. So I will run, actually I'll start with this monitored sessions one. And these will take a little longer probably because you can see the amount of data that's in here. At a high level, you can kind of see like there's a lot of data processing going on December 6th. If I scroll to a more recent date, I can see like there are some days that I used more resources than others. Some of these are kind of interesting. Like I have relatively more commands here, but less input, output, less record processing. Maybe today I've been processing more stuff that is a very large set of requests, whereas maybe yesterday they weren't as big requests. That's my speculation. A lot of these reports have drill downs that are pretty nice too. So if I drill into today, I can actually see like by hour. And if I keep drilling down, I guess by quarter hour. So you can get very granular with that. And you'll see like almost all these reports have those types of drill downs. So we have a few of these general reports available, and you can see kind of like different sets of statistics in each one. So this one's like repository record counts, just the number of records queried each month. In March and April, I've been doing a lot, or particularly in March, I was doing like a lot of like data processing stuff, creating some dashboards and things, so that I have a lot more data in March than in the other months. And we've got some pretty nice stuff like data sources and procedures never used. This is kind of nice because I might have data that I'm not even using. Keep in mind that I set this up in November. Oh, oops, I made this mistake. I clicked submit instead of run. Just keep that in mind. Also, if you want to schedule your resource analyzer report and send it to yourself, you can use that option. If you want to run it immediately, click run. That was what I just did. But anyway, yeah, you can see these data sources haven't been used. I might have used some of these prior to November when I set this database up. So keep that in mind if you're using it. But also keep in mind that the application matters. So I've got these master files both in this admin folder and also like in another application folder where I am using it. So this is kind of a duplicate master file. I could delete this without losing out on anything because again, nothing's being used. So I've already like gotten some insights from this RA resource analyzer feature. And then I'm going to quickly go through the different resource analyzer report folders as well. So the first one is like usage analysis. This is like information on reporting activity, which you'll kind of see as I go through these. So they're broken out by user, procedure, and data source. And so just like the primary sort field is different, but the basic idea is the same. Here I've got like frequency of use by user, so I can run this. What I expect to see is admin at the top because I'm usually signed in as admin. That's what you can see there. This is like the client admin user. You can see some used OpSys, like the operating system. That's some kind of single sign-on thing going on, so I was using that. That's kind of interesting. You'll probably have a lot more users than I do. So you'll probably see like a wide array of users, and then any of these are like highlighted, I can sort on them, so I can see like who did the highest percent of total commands. It was admin, of course. So that's sorted by user. I've got the same thing for procedure. So I will run this one. I should see which procedures run the most. I've got here it's broken down by type. So ad hoc is stuff if I'm like using designer and I just run it from designer without saving it. That's ad hoc. Here we've got like application, and I can click and I can get like specific ones. So this is like every day I run this flow. So you can see it's running every single day. So that's one of the highest usage ones that I have, as indicated by like my like subtotal there. I have a lot of different procedures, so I'll be seeing like quite a few of these running. These are all the things. These are some internal commands, by the way. I have this turned on, so I got like these web console calls that are happening internally. These are like stored procedures and things like that. That also get tracked because they do use resources after all. And I can also, if I want more of a summary, I can get just the top N let's say I want like the top 20 procedures by execution. So like the ad hoc one, of course, again, just running stuff from designer. I do that the most, but these are the ones that are saved that I run. Some of these like internal commands, and then the rest are actually like files that run. So as I mentioned, this one runs every day. And some of these don't run every day. Some of them are scheduled so that they run repeatedly, probably a lot of them, but some of them I've just run a lot. And then it's the same for data sources. Data sources, same idea. I run this one, which data sources are using the most resources. So I'll probably want to sort this one. So let's see. I'll sort by total input output. So this city bike one, this is a huge data source. I think it might have almost 1 million rows. I'm not exactly certain, but that would explain why that has such a high number. So even though I don't use this that much, the kind of like resource usage each time is pretty massive. I think I tried to upload this last month too, and it took a long time. That was probably also a factor there. So already, again, like getting some insights from this, I mean, I find this feature really useful. Then we also have exceptions analysis. I'm going to run this one, and I will tell you a small tip on this one. So for this, when I ran this earlier today, I did not have anything in here. It gave me like a message like, oh, it's empty. What I needed to do was I needed to go into configuration and properties, and I needed to turn on this messages option under auditing, because otherwise it wasn't tracking error messages. So just keep that in mind if you don't have anything for this exception analysis section, you might have to turn that on. But that can be useful, yeah, if you're tracking errors, then, or even, I don't even think this is an error message. I think this is just a regular alert message from my data flow. So it can be good to like track this stuff. Here we go. Something happened here. So these are things that I can go and address. It's pretty useful to know that. Next up, we got usage analysis. This is kind of information on reporting activity. I've got two options. I've got domain usage. So like which workspaces I'm using the most. So here's a rundown of that. I use my workspace and the sandbox one I've been using recently. And then portal and page uses. This is pretty nice as well. This is actually just designer portals and pages. So your some people call it V5, but you can see kind of like the usage rows returned by each item in each page, which is pretty useful. So I can see that this one was using the most data, but I can see it broken down by portal. That's pretty nice too. Some of these are not in a portal at all. Some of them are, like in this environment dashboard. I have a lot of stuff that I've been running recently, and I can see the information about that. Next up is impact analysis. I want to like highlight this one too. You guys might be aware of impact analysis as a feature on the reporting server. You might know that if I go into my application directories, then I can go and navigate to a master file, for example, or a procedure. I'm going to do a master file. And you can right click it. Yeah, you can right click it. And we have this impact analysis option here. And this shows a list of procedures that reference this, this master file. But the thing is that this impact analysis feature only applies to the reporting server content. So I've got all these like kind of flows that or server procedures that run against it that were kind of like already in my application directories. But I don't have any repository stuff. However, Resource Analyzer does track repository content, which I think is very awesome. I can select a field name, any field name in my entire reporting server. So some of these might appear in multiple master files. So I want to pick country. That one I think is probably going to be in multiple master files. I can see that it is actually. It's got some from car, which is one of our sample files, but I've also got some from like this this spreadsheet here. I've made various variations on that car master file too that has it. So I can see where all those are. That's pretty useful actually. That could help with joins and stuff like that. You can see where a specific field is being used, and you can drill down on it too to get even more information about it. So here is some information about the entire car master file, and I can get even more stuff. I'll click this to see what functions are being used. Here's a couple. I'm summing that for some reason in these two procedures, even though it's a dimension. So very interesting information there. But yeah, so this actually includes stuff that's in the repository, which I think is very helpful. Next up, I mean, one of the main reasons you might use Resource Analyzer is for performance analysis. You might want to know which data sources and procedures are impacting performance, and you might want to address that too in various ways. So for example, I will run this long-running requests report. And so here we got like a couple flows that I run every day, some ad hoc requests. I've got, I think this ETL one, this is an internal procedure, which I've enabled tracking on. And that is using a lot of resources. Let me see which ones have the longest CPU time. That one does. Maybe I want to click the drill down to see more information about that. And I can see like the specific request that was using all of that. So here I was uploading that city bike file that I mentioned, and that was the one that used the most. So I learned that by clicking on this drill down link. So these are things that like very immediately useful and even can be actionable. Like you might have some data sources that you might want to make modifications to based on information here, like this excessive joins one, or this repeated aggregations one, for example. A lot of times it can be better to aggregate certain fields at the database level so that you have just one row instead of having to aggregate a whole bunch of rows together. Most of these I would probably want to leave the same, but there might be certain scenarios where I might want to make like a summary table, something that has them pre-aggregated. Who knows? But you know, that's just one example of an insight that I could get from that. And kind of similar scenario with network analysis, you might want to track the impact that's having on your network as well. So here I can see which ones are using the most bandwidth. There are a few months where I was using a lot for sure. And so, you know, that can be useful to track. And I can drill down and see a little bit more information about that, like when I was having the highest impact there by connection as well. And then finally, graph reports. It has some useful time-based information shown in graph form. So this is pretty useful if you're running your server all the time. A lot of requests are being made against it. You can see when are those requests being made. Can help you to make decisions on like when to have downtime, when you might expect to have the most requests. So you might want to like make more resources available for it, stuff like that. So you can see at 4 p.m., 11 a.m., 5 p.m. I have like a lot of requests. Day of the week also is as predicted. I looked at this earlier. I have no requests on Sunday. I have a very small amount on Saturday. Most of them are taking place during the week, like not Monday and Wednesday because I have a lot of meetings those days, but these other ones, I have a lot of requests going on. So yeah, I think covered like all the resource analyzer content as well. Hopefully I showed how easy it is to use and how useful the reports are. It really requires very little user interaction. You saw me go through the whole setup process, which didn't require a whole lot of work. And then these reports, just the data is collected over time as people use WebFOCUS, and it automatically goes into these reports, and you can just review them at your leisure. So yeah, let me know. Are you using Resource Analyzer? Are you interested in trying it? It's included in WebFOCUS, so feel free to go ahead and do that. And hopefully you find it useful.